It's June 29th, 2014. We're out at Justin at Prop Wash here with Lanny Parcell and Tom Kemp. Tom is the treasurer of the organization. Of course, Lanny has been the one who's been spearheading this whole project. We're down to painting. I use we because I use we.
Yeah. It's a royal we.
Yeah, it's a royal we. But Lanny and his crew have gotten the airplane completely covered now, and they've got some coats of the silver on this side of the airplane. We'll take a look at the Travel Air Blue on the other side. But Lanny was just telling us about some of the challenges of now having to somewhat disassemble the airplane and take it downtown to put it into its final display area in Fort Worth. And I hate that Lanny is so uninvolved and unemotional about this whole process. I mean, just sitting here listening to him, and he's as excited about the process of moving the airplane downtown as he has been about doing the work. So I don't know how much of that Don's already got, but Lanny's telling me we're looking at getting the airplane downtown on August 1st, and that's going to be a work day to get it ready. And has Joy or anybody talked to you about a christening date or any of that?
Not particularly.
Okay.
I think it's probably going to be a week or two after we actually have it in place.
Right, because I know they'll be doing stuff within the space.
Right.
After that, she's already. Yeah. We were down there. Well, you've been down there. We were down the other day, and the granite floor that's going to be underneath the airplane. They want it to shine like a mirror, so you'll be able to see the airplane in the floor.
Well, when we were there, they had masonite covering the whole.
Okay.
The whole space floor, so I didn't get to see.
Well, she had a small section open because they were doing the grouting, and she had a small section open so that we could see what the granite's going to look like. And she said, of course, this is going to be polished because right now it just kind of looks a little cloudy and dusty look to it. And, I know I sent out pictures of the space to people, and the response was a little bit less enthusiastic than I thought. But of course, they didn't see what was behind me.
Yeah.
That whole gallery behind, that's all the mahogany and the rest of the stuff down there. It's just it's going to be a fabulous space.
King Tut's Palace is kind of what it looks like in that other room.
Yeah.
But I think they've done a good job with the floor and the walls, and everything's very neutral. You know, the light gray in the ceilings,
right.
And we were even talking about doing the suspension cables in the same light gray so that they'll disappear.
Oh, so they'll disappear, yeah. That'd be great.
Yeah, but this airplane's going to consume that room when
it will.
you get it in there. And
yeah, it will.
That room's got to be, I'm guessing it's 100 feet by 50 feet.
Probably something like that.
Something like that, and this thing is 32 feet by 52, so it's going to use half of the room all by itself.
Well, it's going to be dominant. That's what the whole idea was. And
yeah.
It's amazed me the amount that they've had to do in the building for this. You know, in some respects, it reminds me of doing a painting. You buy a painting, and then you spend twice as much on the frame sometimes. And in this case, it's maybe even a lot more than that.
Probably even in the house to put it on the wall.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's see, the last time we were here was exactly 10 days ago. The top wasn't on it. Of course, it hadn't been painted, and I know there's been a lot of other work, but what are you going to do with the lighting on this?
Well, last time we were over there, we did a lot of work with the lighting, and we found, matter of fact, we're going to end up using a lot of the original fixtures. Some of the fixtures, the light sockets, were with the airplane.
Okay.
Like cockpit floodlights.
Right.
I've got a dome light, so we're going to put two floods that are going to be shining, illuminating the instrument panel.
Okay.
That are basically sat right over the pilot's shoulders.
Okay.
Kind of a typical looking.
Yeah.
Floodlight of, they probably invented it in the 20s, and they used it all through World War II.
Might as well. Worked.
Yeah. And we've actually found, through Aircraft Spruce and Specialty, we found an LED light that has the same interface, the same point bayonet style light bulb.
So you keep the heat down with the LEDs.
Keep
well, and won't need to get replaced probably for a long time or any of that kind of stuff.
They have multiple elements in them, like most LEDs do. So
what are you going to do about the passenger compartment?
There's going to be a single dome light.
Just a single light in there?
Over the four seats.
Okay.
That's basically designed. We didn't have the original, so it's basically going to be designed to illuminate the cabin so that it's lit up from the floor or from the windows outside. You'll be able to tell it's the other thing we have to come up with is the LEDs, to me, are going to look wrong.
Okay.
Because it's got that light blue, bright white, light blue kind of light. It needs to be a warm yellow, incandescent looking light. So we're looking.
Well, there's a yellow white that there's in those things too.
Soft white.
Yeah, soft white or something like that. So you're going to do running lights too?
Yeah, it'll have nav lights on all three corners.
Okay.
Both wingtips and the tail. And then the dome light in the cabin and then the floodlights in the cockpit.
Now, are you going to do the landing light? I know there was some talk about that earlier on.
I don't see how we can really make that work effectively.
Okay.
Because
I noticed it's not even in the.
It's not in the wing. Yeah. But the landing lights, I don't know. To do something with the landing lights, to me, it would look kind of hokey.
Yeah.
Because you'd have a small little bulb just to light them up.
Yeah.
And that you could cook with that light. That is a big hot light.
Yeah, big light. Yeah.
So if you put 2 little LEDs in there, it look kind of cartoonish.
Yeah. So
if you put the real thing in there, you'll disturb traffic outside because it'll be so bright.
Has there been any discussion about with all that glass that's there along Taylor Street? Has there been any discussion about what the UV is going to do to the airplane?
I've asked the question, and Dusty didn't know if they did anything with that glass or not.
Okay.
It looks like it's got somewhat of a tint to it, but I don't know if it's a museum grade kind of a UV blocker, like you'd put a document behind. I can't imagine.
No. So is there anything that's going to be in the paint that's going to protect it?
Well, the silver.
Okay.
Yeah, the silver poly spray is what that's called. That is actually, the silver pigment is actually ground aluminum.
It is. Okay.
It's like talcum powder that you mix with the paint.
All right.
And that's the UV blocker. But like I said, this has basically got it does have an airworthy cover job on it.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So it's effectively designed, painted up so it can sit outside as a flying airplane.
Nice. Now, how many people have been involved with you on this project?
There's about 5 or 6 that have worked on it.
Okay, so it's been you and Tom and David.
Yeah, David O.Z., Jerry Asher.
And Carrie. And yourself and your dad. And
that's more than 6, isn't it?
Yeah, and then I know from time to time you've had other people in here.
Yeah, I got subs. But,
okay.
Yeah, I got some subs that work on it. The instruments are being done by Ralph Stahl over at Arrow Valley.
Okay.
Northwest Regional.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, yeah. All right.
And
so altogether 10, 12 people?
Probably.
Okay. So, but the core of it has been 5 or 6 people.
Yeah.
Okay. And how many hours do you think you've got in on it so far?
Oh, somebody asked me that the other day. I'm going to sit down and actually do the math because we do keep a log. It's going to be in the neighborhood of 2,500 hours by the time it's done.
Okay. And and
that's really not too bad when you think about it.
No, I was going to, because I think originally you thought it's going to be around 3,000 hours, something like that. I seem to remember you guessing at that. But now, what outside organizations that you know of have been watching this and aware of what's going on and interested in development?
Well, other than the Fort Worth Aviation Museum, I don't know of any other organizations that have really been watching it.
Well, I know
there's a following.
There is a following out there. I know that
Facebook.
On Facebook there's 2 or 3 following. I mean, there's a lot of people who are following, but I know that there's a group that's part of the Smithsonian's Mutual Concerns group. And there's a Facebook out there that's called Air and Space Museums, and people on there are following it. And I know we've had contact from Historic Aviation Magazine, and they've followed us from time to time and have wanted information.
Yeah. Is that Ed Phillips?
Maybe Ed Phillips. Yeah. Because he came out or called and interviewed some of you folks.
Yeah, we did a phone interview, and he's waiting on pictures of it done before he can publish his article.
And we've got somebody else here recently that's an online deal. They did a thing on the A12 recently, and we've sent them information on this one. And on our side of it, we were talking about it's been Bill Morris and Ben Guttery, and of course Don. Don is the one who brought this thing to our attention. So if you want to spin the camera around on yourself, Don, and smile.
I'll let you do that.
Do a selfie.
Okay. So Don has pretty much brought the thing to everybody's attention, and then Tom has been helping out with the finances that were coming through us for a while, because once we had started to raise funds and had raised a certain amount of funds with that, and then once Morningstar took it over, they just said, we've got it. So there's been a lot of other people on the other side that have been trying to help out. Why don't we move around to the other side so we can see the blue?
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Okay.
Will this be displayed where people can see inside it, like the instrument panel?
That's the way we're talking right now. It'll be kind of like the Wooler Rock, where it'll be it's going to be 9 degrees nose down and 9 degrees right wing low, which basically puts the side of the fuselage in plane with the viewing angle standing on the ground. So I think both doors are going to be open. We're going to play with it and see how well to display it. But the idea was that both doors will be open and you'll be able to see inside to the cockpit. And from a certain angle, you'll be able to see the instrument panel and then see the wicker seats on the inside and all the mahogany wood that makes up the interior.
And from the sidewalk outside, you're going to be nose to nose with the airplane.
Great.
So let's go look at the blue.
Okay.
We're going to take the shortcut.
Yeah. We'll go this way, Don. So this is oh, you ready? Okay. Want to get over there? All right.
Light might be a little better. That's a little dark back there.
Yeah, okay. So you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So you found a little bit of the original paint on the airplane, right? There was some on the cloth and then some in the foot pegs.
And the foot pegs, and then actually the wood that made the firewall structure. This was a wooden firewall structure with a galvanized piece of sheet metal over that. And when we took the sheet metal off, the fabric was wrapped around and had never seen the sun.
Oh, great!
So it was a pretty good color swatch.
Okay. So, and what we've got on here is, I saw a little swatch from, what manufacturer is it?
This is Polyfiber.
Polyfiber,
it's called Polytone.
Okay, and it's called True Blue, I think, is the color on it. So, it's a great color. It's almost, I guess, kind of a French blue, but this is the color that Travel Air used on a lot of their airplanes, isn't it?
Right, yeah, that was the
factory. This is their signature color?
The factory scheme was a blue fuselage and a blue empennage and silver wings.
Okay. Okay, and I know you went through a while to try to figure out whether the wings were silver or white because all the photography was black and white.
Right.
So, silver.
I think we pretty much zeroed in on it. I think Jerry did a lot of work with the black and white film because some of depending on what type of film it was, it displays yellows and reds in different colors, matching different pieces. He kind of zeroed in on the fact that the wings were silver, which makes perfectly good sense.
Sure, it does.
That was Travel Air's factory. Color.
Now, do you have the wicker chairs yet?
No.
Okay.
I don't have them here yet.
Okay. Now, who's doing those for you?
They're still at the caner. I found out that's what they call it.
Yeah, caning it. Yeah.
They're custom made.
Oh, cool. Okay, great. You weren't here, I guess, but when I climbed up in the cockpit last time, what surprised me, besides how difficult it was to get into the cockpit, this is not a jump in and go fly your mission airplane.
Right.
But once it got in, it's really very roomy. And it was obvious to me that a pilot designed the airplane.
Yeah.
Because the instrument panel was right there in front of you, and there was much more visibility than I thought there was going to be up in there with your head up out of it.
I would imagine in flight it was probably stunning.
It probably was.
Because the nose drops away from you because the engine's smaller than the...
So you probably felt a little bit like the F-16 guys do today, where you could see the whole world, and then there was an enormous amount of visibility really down below, up to the front chins and then down through the door.
Right.
The door area. So I was really surprised, and then you turned around and looked back, because I'd gotten in and sat in the passenger compartment too, and it's like, this was made for a pilot to operate it, and throw them in the back and let's go.
Well, it kind of reminiscent of some of those old biplane transports of the day where the pilot sat way in the back and really couldn't see much, and the passengers were buried inside the fuselage with a porthole.
Right. Oh, yeah. Some of those. Yeah. Yeah.
Like the de Havilland transport level kind of stuff. The Foxmoth and airplanes like that.
Well, those were kind of an offshoot too of the airmail airplanes. They didn't have windows down there. They just threw the bags in there, and if there was room, they'd throw passengers in there on top of the bags. But and I hadn't thought about it until the other day. I was looking at one of the pictures when Carter got the airplane, and there was a banner that was on the side of the airplane, and it said, it had the NAT, National Air Transport. And then it said first passenger airplane presented to Amon Carter, and I hadn't really seen that anyplace, and I hadn't really noticed the banner before, but it says first passenger airplane on it, so the significance on this is really something. We've been in contact with Amon Carter Sr.'s great-grandson, and we thought maybe he would be able to get out here today, but that didn't happen. But certainly we'll have to get him down there for the presentation. We've told him round up the family. Because this is going to be very special, excuse me, on so many different levels.
Right.
So I asked Tom this last time, and he gave us a little bit of his impressions on it. But what has it meant to you to do this airplane?
Well, it's almost been a religious experience, so to speak, because And I really didn't know that much about early Fort Worth aviation, other than I knew that there was some.
Yeah.
But after getting involved with this project, it's kind of sparked my interest, and I've done some research, and I know there's a lot more I'd like to learn
Right.
about Amon Carter and some of the earlier flying activities in Fort Worth. But it's really just being part of history. That's the way I really feel about it. I'm part of history.
Oh yeah, you're forever attached to this airplane now.
Yeah.
What kind of insights have you gained from the early people who built airplanes like this in this experience?
Well, it was I use this cliche that I came up with. It's really more of an art form than it was a science back in those days.
Oh yeah, sure.
You know, and they're trying things.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at this airplane versus its successor, the Travel 6000,
right?
They changed the philosophy of the airplane, and the engine thrust line is lower than the cabin, where the engine thrust line on this airplane is
right through,
right down the middle of the airplane, which puts the pilot in the position that he's in.
Right.
6000's got a conventional looking windshield, and
that's right, it does.
the engine's lower, the thrust line is, maybe the passengers and the pilots are lifted up relative to the thrust line of the airplane.
Yeah.
Got a little technical question on the paint and so forth. The metal struts and stuff, can you use the same paint, or do you have to have a different mixture of that to do that?
It's really a different mixture.
It is?
Yeah. Stitz tells you that you can put this on metal, but I've never had success with it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's too flexible. If you put it on metal and you put a piece of masking tape on it, it comes right
Pulls
off.
it right off?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
So I've got an enamel from the same people, same color.
Okay.
The only challenge with that is that it's kind of the world's glossiest paint. It's one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, wet look paint, and that's not what we want.
But you can comb your hair in it?
Yeah. So I've always had a challenge of flattening their shiny paint. So you take the world's shiniest paint, and then you try to make it look dull like this. And it's trial and error until you get it right.
Well, I know you want to get back to this, but you mentioned challenge, and what have been the biggest challenges to you in this project?
Well, technical challenges. I think the hardest part was coming up with all of the wood structure that made the shape of the airplane. Because you know, it's a conventional steel tubing, welded steel tubing airframe superstructure, but the shape of the airplane is all driven by the wood bulkheads and the stringers and there wasn't any of that left. There wasn't any pattern, so we were reverse engineering it from photographs. So you started with a known, which we happened to have the original firewall, and that was the only given shape we had, and we basically backed into the rest of it with you know, plumbed lines, and straight edges.
Yeah, I remember seeing all that stuff while we were coming through here, and
so that was one of the biggest challenges. And then, you know, not having any manuals or any drawings, trying to figure out how the control cables worked, and you basically just had to sit there and study and get in the guy's head on how we did this.
Yeah. Do you have any idea who exactly designed this, or was it really a conglomeration of those three guys?
I think it was. I think it was mostly Clyde Cessna.
Oh, okay.
Was the designing factor behind it.
Okay.
And I come to that conclusion because once they broke up and went their separate ways, Cessna's first airplane looks a lot like this.
Okay.
It was a little two-place airplane instead of a big cabin, but it's got a very similar lines and the same kind of Spirit of St. Louis looking kind of front end on it with an open cockpit that was high relative to it.
I did ask Harry when I talked to him last week about the rudder pedal issue. And he admitted that he moved them.
Yeah.
He said because of the engine he was going to put on it.
Yeah.
To be able to fly it, he had to do that. So.
Yeah. Well, we kind of figured that out in the long run.
Well, I know you had. So.
Was, you know, like I said, because it was when it was being restored to actually go fly, it needed more horsepower because a 200 horsepower Wright J5 on a 3,000-pound airplane is barely get out of its own way. So it had a 300 horse Lycoming on it, which is about a 150-pound heavier engine, and the propeller ends up being a little heavier. So we calculated that they shortened the firewall back. That Harry had shortened the firewall back 3.5 inches.
Oh, okay.
And that threw the rudder pedals out of sync. So they adjusted accordingly. Now I think once it's all put together and you stand back and look at it, you won't be able to see 3.5 inches.
And we won't tell. And we won't. Yeah, and we won't tell anybody.
Right.
Well, I know you want to get back to work here because you've now got a deadline to work with.
Yeah.
So, as always, it's a pleasure to be out here and see what you guys are doing, and it's just marvelous, marvelous work. So,
well, we love it.
So I guess the next thing after paint is pulling it out.
Well, I think my next move, once I get it all painted, it's really gonna open the door where we can get multiple things going, because Jerry will come up and start laying out all the markings, the NAT and the US mail and all of that kind of stuff. So somebody can be doing that. The L5 next door is going to go back to its home.
Okay.
The Ryan will go in the hangar. So in other words, I'm going to have the whole next bay is going to be dedicated to the Traveler, so we can lay the wings.
Now all the markings going to be hand painted?
They're going to look like it.
Okay. Good enough.
Yeah. What we're going to do is we're going to make stencils.
Okay.
And stencil it all on, and then Jerry, with his sign painting art capabilities, is going to come back and hand paint over all the stenciled stuff, so it'll look like it's been completely hand painted.
Yeah. Okay. That's exactly what one of our guys is doing on an A4, which is vastly different than this, but the same kind of technique. So.
But I'm pretty much convinced. Now Jerry thinks that the big NAT on the side was a decal, was a stick-on.
Yeah.
Because they're all too perfect.
Oh,
all
okay.
The pictures
okay, they all look the same.
Yeah.
Well, and then we've seen some of them without it on it at all.
Right.
So. That's good. I don't know. I'm really looking forward to the rest of this. It's been exciting to come along and watch the progress on this thing, and it's really getting jazzy now.
It is.
Yeah,
it's starting to look like something.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, it's like what we always said. They look a lot bigger when you can't see through it anymore.
Yeah.
when it's just a structure sitting with no fabric on it, doesn't look that big.
Yeah. Well, it's like a house, though. You know, as you build a house, it gets bigger, gets smaller, gets bigger, gets smaller. So, yeah, it does look a lot bigger. No. All right, that's it for today from June 29th here at Prop Wash.